The bucket of water hit him like a slap. Splash! Cold, dirty, mixed with sand and God knows what else from the gutter behind the school building. The boy stood there, dripping, his full-face motorcycle helmet still strapped to his head. Water poured down the dark visor. His school uniform, white shirt, blue trousers, clung to his body, completely soaked. Laughter exploded around him, loud, cruel, echoing across the school compound. "Helmet boy got baptized!" someone shouted. "Maybe now he'll take that stupid thing off," another voice yelled. "He probably has a disease, that's why he hides his face. Or he's ugly, so ugly even his mother can't look at him." More laughter. Phones came out, recording, posting, the humiliation spreading in real time across social media. The boy didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there in his soaked uniform and that helmet everyone had been mocking for 3 months straight. His name, what everyone called him anyway, was Helmet Boy. Nobody knew his real name. Nobody cared. He'd shown up at Kings Valley Secondary School in Lagos at the beginning of the term wearing that helmet, and he'd never taken it off. Not once. Not in class, not during lunch, not even during sports. The principal had tried to make him remove it. He'd shown documentation, some medical letter the school accepted but never shared. Whatever it said was enough to let him keep wearing it. But documentation doesn't stop bullies, and Kings Valley had plenty of those. The worst was Tunde, 17 years old, captain of the football team, son of a wealthy businessman, the kind of boy who'd never been told no in his entire life. Tunde stood at the front of the crowd now, holding the empty bucket, grinning like he'd just won a trophy. "What's wrong, Helmet Boy? Can't take a joke?" He tossed the bucket aside. "Or are you too weak to fight back?" The boy's hand moved slowly to his helmet. For a moment, just a moment, everyone thought he might actually take it off. The compound went silent, phones raised higher, ready to capture the face behind the helmet. But instead of removing it, the boy simply wiped the visor with his wet sleeve and walked away, slowly, deliberately, water dripping with every step. "Coward!" Tunde yelled after him. "You're a coward, Helmet Boy! Coward!" The crowd laughed again, some following him, taunting, but the boy just kept walking, through the jeering crowd, past the teachers who looked away, through the school gate. Nobody knew where he went after school. Nobody knew where he lived. He'd arrive every morning on a beat-up motorcycle, helmet already on, and leave the same way every afternoon. What nobody knew, what nobody could have guessed, was that the boy they were mocking, the Helmet Boy they'd humiliated for months, was about to change their entire world. Because under that helmet wasn't a disease, wasn't ugliness, wasn't weakness. Under that helmet was a secret so big, so shocking, that when the truth came out, it wouldn't just silence the bullies, it would bring them to their knees. Let me tell you who Helmet Boy really was. His name was Prince Adeyemi Ogunlade, 18 years old, first son of Oba Ogunlade III, the traditional ruler of Ijeshaland, one of the most powerful kingdoms in southwestern Nigeria. He was royalty, actual, legitimate royalty. His father's kingdom controlled land worth billions of naira. Their family wealth stretched back 5 centuries. The palace compound was larger than some villages. They had staff, guards, advisors, an entire government structure. Prince Adeyemi had grown up in luxury that most people couldn't imagine. Private tutors, personal chefs, servants who anticipated his every need before he even asked. But luxury had made him lonely. Everyone who approached him wanted something: access to his father, business deals, political favor. Nobody saw him. They saw a title, a crown, a transaction. By the time he turned 17, Prince Adeyemi had made a decision. "Baba," he'd said to his father one evening, using the Yoruba word for father, "I want to attend regular school in Lagos, like a normal student." The Oba, his father, had looked at him like he'd suggested flying to the moon. "You want to what?"
I want to experience life as a normal person, not as a prince, just as me. Adeyemi, you are a prince. You cannot simply... I'm tired of being a prince, Baba. The words burst out of him like water from a broken dam. I'm tired of people bowing, tired of fake smiles, tired of never knowing if someone likes me or just wants something from our family. The Oba was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed. You sound like your mother. Prince Adeyemi's mother had died when he was 12. She'd been from a humble background before marrying into royalty, and she'd always told him, never forget where real people live. Never forget how real life works. She would understand, Adeyemi said quietly. The Oba looked at his son, his heir, his pride, and saw something he hadn't noticed before. Loneliness, hunger for authenticity, a desperate need to know who he was beyond his title. Finally, he nodded. 1 year. You can attend Kings Valley Secondary School in Lagos for your final year, but with conditions. Anything. Nobody can know who you are. Nobody. Not the school, not the students, not even the teachers beyond what's necessary for admission. You live simply. No palace guards following you, no drivers, no special treatment. That's what I want. And you'll wear something to hide your identity. Your face is too well known. Anyone from our region would recognize you immediately. That's when Prince Adeyemi had the idea. A helmet. I'll wear a motorcycle helmet. Tell the school it's for medical reasons, sensitivity to light or something. That way, nobody sees my face and I can just be a student. His father had looked skeptical. They will mock you. Let them. At least they'll be mocking me, not some fake version of me they created in their heads. So, it was arranged. Documents were prepared under a false name, David Adeleke. Admission was secured through a concerned parent who didn't want to remain anonymous, actually one of the Oba's advisors. A small apartment was rented in a modest neighborhood, an old motorcycle was purchased, and Prince Adeyemi Ogunlade became David Adeleke, the strange boy who wore a helmet to school. The first month in school. The first few weeks, people were mostly curious. Why do you wear that helmet? Medical condition, Adeyemi would reply, his voice slightly muffled by the helmet. Light sensitivity. Some kids accepted it. Most thought it was weird. But Lagos had seen stranger things, so after a while, people just adjusted. Adeyemi loved it. For the first time in his life, people talked to him without knowing who he was, without bowing, without wanting anything. He made a friend, a quiet, smart boy named Emeka who sat next to him in mathematics class. Emeka didn't care about the helmet. He cared about solving equations and arguing about football. You support Arsenal? Emeka had asked, horrified, when they were discussing English Premier League. What's wrong with Arsenal? Everything. They haven't won anything in years. They'd argued for 20 minutes, and Adeyemi had laughed harder than he'd laughed in years. Because this was real. This was friendship based on nothing but shared interests and genuine connection. He joined study groups, participated in class debates, even played in some pickup football games during lunch. Though the helmet made it difficult, he'd sit out and just watch instead. For one beautiful month, Prince Adeyemi Ogunlade was just another student. Then, Tunde noticed him. The bullying begins. It started small. Helmet boy, what's under there? Are you hiding a third eye or something? Adeyemi ignored it. He'd been trained in the palace to maintain composure. A king does not respond to every dog that barks, his father used to say. But Tunde wasn't a dog that would stop barking. He started a campaign, subtle at first, whispers, jokes, mocking comments that got progressively meaner. I heard he has leprosy. I heard his face got burned in a fire. I heard he's actually a girl hiding from her parents. The rumors spread like wildfire. And because Adeyemi wouldn't respond, wouldn't defend himself, people started believing the wildest theories. Then it got physical. Tunde would accidentally bump into him in the hallway, making him drop his books. "Sorry, helmet boy, didn't see you there. Oh wait, I can't see your face either, can I?" Other students, wanting to impress Tunde, joined in. Someone poured glue on his desk chair. Adeyemi sat in it before noticing, ruining his uniform trousers. He had to walk around the rest of the day with sticky pants while people laughed. Someone loosened the bolts on his motorcycle. He discovered it only when the bike started wobbling dangerously on his way home. He could have died. Emeka tried to help. "You should report this. Tell the principal." "No," Adeyemi said firmly. "But they're hurting you." "I can handle it." "Why won't you just take off the helmet? Show them you're normal. Maybe they'll stop." "No." The word came out harder than Adeyemi intended. "I can't. Please, Emeka, just trust me." Emeka backed off, but he looked worried. This is going to get worse before it gets better. He was right.
The bucket incident was the tipping point. After being doused with dirty water in front of the entire school, Adeyemi went home to his small apartment, so different from the palace, and sat on the edge of his bed, still wearing the wet helmet. He wanted to take it off, wanted to reveal himself, wanted to watch Tunde's face when he realized who he'd been bullying. But something stopped him. Pride? No, princes were taught humility. Fear? Maybe a little, but mostly stubbornness. He'd started this experiment to prove he could be normal, to prove he could handle life without his title. If he gave up now, revealed himself to escape bullying, what would that prove? That he needed his title, that he couldn't survive as just himself. So he decided to push through. Just a few more months until graduation. Then he'd go back to the palace, and this would all be a story he'd tell his children someday. But the universe had other plans, because the video of the bucket incident went viral. By the next morning, Helmet Boy Gets Baptized had 50,000 views on TikTok. By afternoon, 200,000. By evening, it was trending across Nigerian social media. Comments poured in. "Why doesn't he just take off the helmet? This is bullying. Where are the teachers? Helmet Boy, if you're reading this, you're stronger than all of them. I bet he's hiding something big." News blocks picked it up. Mysterious student bullied at Lagos school. Who is Helmet Boy? Radio stations debated it. Is this acceptable behavior in our schools? The school was forced to respond. The principal called an emergency assembly. "Bullying will not be tolerated at Kings Valley," he announced, red-faced and sweating under pressure from parents and media attention. "Anyone caught harassing another student will be suspended." He didn't name names, but everyone knew he meant Tunde. Tunde didn't care. If anything, the attention made him worse, because now his pride was at stake. Now he had an audience. "You think you're special, Helmet Boy?" Tunde cornered Adeyemi after school, surrounded by his football team friends. "You think going viral makes you somebody? You're nothing. You hear me? Nothing." Adeyemi stood quietly, as he always did, not responding, not fighting back. "You know what I think?" Tunde stepped closer. "I think you're just a coward hiding behind that helmet. I think if we ripped it off, we'd find nothing worth hiding. Just a scared little boy who, that's enough." A woman's voice, sharp, commanding, coming from a black Mercedes that had just pulled up. A woman in an expensive business suit stepped out. She was in her 40s, elegant, with the kind of presence that made people automatically straighten their spones. "Who are you?" Tunde demanded. "I'm her lawyer," she said calmly, walking over. "And if you touch him, if you threaten him, if you so much as breathe in his direction in a threatening manner, I will sue you, your parents, and this school for harassment, assault, and creation of a hostile environment. Do you understand?" Tunde's friends started backing away.
We were just— I have the videos, she interrupted. All of them. The glue, the motorcycle sabotage, the bucket, everything. Do you want me to press charges? Because I will. Tunde went pale. The woman turned to Adeyemi. Get in the car, now. Adeyemi hesitated. This wasn't part of the plan. His father had promised no interference. Your father sent me, she said quietly, answering his unspoken question. The video reached him. He's concerned. Please, just get in the car. Adeyemi looked at Emeka, who'd been watching from a distance. His friend gave him a small nod. Go, it's okay. He got in the car. As they drove away, Adeyemi could see Tunde standing there, surrounded by his stunned friends, the swagger completely gone from his posture. But this wasn't over. Not by a long shot.
The drive from Lagos to Ijeshaland took 3 hours. 3 hours of silence. 3 hours of Adeyemi dreading the conversation he was about to have with his father. The palace compound came into view, sprawling, majestic, ancient and modern at the same time. Guards stood at attention. Staff bowed as the car passed. Adeyemi's hands clenched. This was everything he'd been trying to escape. His father was waiting in the private study. The Oba still wore his traditional ceremonial attire, richly embroidered agbada, coral beads, the crown that marked his position. Adeyemi? His voice was neutral, impossible to read. Baba, take off the helmet. You're home now. Adeyemi removed it slowly. His face, handsome, young, unmistakably royal, with high cheekbones and sharp eyes, was revealed. He felt naked without it after months of hiding. The Oba looked at his son for a long moment. The video reached me yesterday. By this morning, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Chiefs, advisors, council members, all asking the same question. Is that your son being humiliated in Lagos? Baba, I'm sorry. Sorry for what? The Oba's voice rose slightly. Sorry for being bullied? Sorry for enduring mockery with dignity? Sorry for refusing to use your title to escape difficulty? Adeyemi blinked, surprised. His father continued. I watched that video. I saw you stand there, soaking wet, humiliated, and walk away with your head held high. Do you know what that takes? That's not weakness, my son. That's strength. But I failed. You didn't fail. The Oba walked to the window, looking out at the compound. You wanted to know who you were without your title. You wanted to see if people would value you for yourself. You found your answer. The answer is they won't, Adeyemi said bitterly. They mocked me, hurt me, for months. Yes, they did. The Oba turned back. And now you understand something that no amount of palace training could teach you. You understand what it feels like to be powerless, to be dismissed, to be judged without anyone knowing your worth. He walked over and placed a hand on his son's shoulder. Most kings and princes never learn this. They rule without understanding the people they rule. They make decisions without knowing what it feels like to be invisible, mocked, and struggling. You now have something they don't: empathy. Adeyemi felt tears building behind his eyes. So here's what we're going to do. You're going back to that school. You're going to finish your final year. But we're going to do something first. What? We're going to let them know who you are. 2 days later, Kings Valley Secondary School received a very interesting letter. It was delivered by hand in an expensive envelope sealed with an official crest. The principal opened it in his office, read it once, went pale, read it again, and then immediately called an emergency assembly. Every student was required to attend, no exceptions. The assembly hall was packed. Students whispered, wondering what this was about. Tunde sat with his football team, looking bored. Emeka was worried.
The principal walked to the podium, his hands shaking. "Students," he began, his voice unsteady, I've received information that I must share with you immediately, information that concerns one of our students." Whispers rippled through the crowd. 3 months ago, we admitted a student under special circumstances for medical and personal reasons. This student was allowed to maintain his privacy, including protective headgear. Everyone knew who he was talking about. Heads turned, looking for Helmet Boy. But Adeyemi wasn't in the assembly hall. Not yet. "This student," the principal continued, "has endured significant harassment during his time here, bullying that I am ashamed to say we did not adequately address." Tunde shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Today, I learned the true identity of this student, and I owe him and all of you an apology for not protecting him better." The back doors of the assembly hall opened. Everyone turned. Prince Adeyemi Ogunlade walked in, without the helmet. He wore traditional Yoruba prince attire, a rich blue agbada embroidered with gold thread, a matching fila cap, coral beads around his neck that marked his royal status. Behind him walked 4 palace guards in ceremonial dress and his father's chief advisor. But what made everyone gasp, what made phones raise in shocked disbelief, was his face. He was handsome, strikingly so, with the kind of regal bearing that can't be faked. He moved like someone used to people bowing when he entered a room. The whispers exploded into full conversation. Students' jaws literally dropped. "That's Helmet Boy? Oh my God, Wait, is that the royal beads? Those are real." The principal held up his hand for silence. "Students, I present to you Prince Adeyemi Ogunlade, first son of Oba Ogunlade III, traditional ruler of Ijeshaland and heir to one of Nigeria's most ancient and respected kingdoms." Complete silence. You could hear every breath, every heartbeat.
Adeyemi walked down the center aisle slowly. Every eye was on him. He passed Emeka, who looked shocked, but gave him a small smile. He passed the students who'd laughed at him, who'd called him names, who'd spread rumors. He stopped in front of Tunde's row. Tunde had gone completely white. His friends had scooted away from him like he had a disease. Adeyemi looked at him, just looked, didn't say a word. Tunde's hands were shaking. Finally, Adeyemi spoke. His voice was calm, measured, regal, different from the quiet, muffled voice they had heard through the helmet. "For 3 months, I attended this school as a regular student. I wanted to experience life as a normal person, to make friends based on who I am, not what I am, to learn, to grow, to understand." He turned to address the entire assembly. "Instead, I learned a different lesson. I learned that people judge quickly, that they mock what they don't understand, that they hurt others to make themselves feel powerful." His eyes swept across the crowd. Some students looked ashamed, others looked awed. But I also learned something else. I learned that kindness exists, that real friendship doesn't care about titles or faces, that dignity is something you keep inside yourself, not something others can take away. He turned back to Tunde. "You threw a bucket of dirty water on me. You sabotaged my motorcycle. You turned others against me. You made my life here difficult because you thought I was weak, because you thought I was nobody." Tunde looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "But I want to thank you," Adeyemi said quietly. Everyone gasped. "Thank you for showing me what kind of ruler I don't want to be. Thank you for teaching me empathy for those who suffer without power. Thank you for proving that a title means nothing if the person wearing it has no character." He stepped closer to Tunde.
I could destroy you right now. One phone call to my father, and your parents' business deals in I Shall Land? Gone. Your father's political ambitions? Finished. Your future? Ruined. Tunde was crying now. Actually crying in front of the entire school. But I won't do that, Adeyemi continued, because I didn't come here to be a prince. I came here to be a student, and what I learned is that revenge doesn't make you strong. It makes you small. He turned and walked to the front of the assembly hall, standing next to the principal. I'm finishing this school year, he announced, as Prince Adeyemi. No more hiding, no more helmet, but also no special treatment. I'm still a student, still here to learn, still just me. He looked at Emeka and smiled. His friend smiled back, relief flooding his face. And if anyone has a problem with that, Adeyemi concluded, then they can take it up with my father. He's right outside. The back doors opened again. The Oba walked in, fully dressed in royal regalia, radiating authority and power. Every student stood up immediately, not because they were told to, but because the presence of an actual king demanded it. The Oba walked to his son, placed a hand on his shoulder, and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, I am proud of you, my son. You've learned what kingship really means. Then he turned to the students. Treat him as you would any student, because that's what he is. But remember, character isn't given by birth. It's proven by choices. My son proved his. What will you prove? He walked out, leaving a stunned, silent assembly hall behind. The video of Adeyemi's revelation went more viral than the bucket incident. Prince reveals himself after months of bullying, trended globally. News stations covered it. Blogs analyzed it. Everyone had an opinion. But inside Kings Valley Secondary School, everything changed. Tunde was suspended for 2 weeks. His parents were horrified, not just by his behavior, but by who he'd been bullying. His father's business relationships in I Shall Land became complicated overnight, not because Adeyemi did anything, but because other businesses didn't want to be associated with someone who'd raised a son capable of such cruelty. When Tunde returned to school, he was different, quiet, humble. He never bothered Adeyemi again. In fact, he avoided him entirely. Some students tried to suddenly befriend Adeyemi, wanted to be close to royalty, wanted favors, connections, Instagram photos. He politely declined. If you didn't want to know me when I wore the helmet, you don't get to know me now that it's off. But Emeka, though, Emeka remained his friend, because Emeka liked David Adeleke before he knew about Prince Adeyemi, and that kind of friendship is rare. The school administration improved their bullying policies, started counseling programs, brought in speakers to talk about judging others, all because one prince decided to wear a helmet and experience life as everyone else did.
6 months later, graduation arrived. Prince Adeyemi stood on stage as valedictorian. His grades had always been excellent, even with all the harassment. He looked out at the crowd of students, parents, teachers. His father sat in the front row, beaming with pride. Emeka sat with his family, giving him thumbs up. Tunde sat in the back, alone. When Adeyemi's eyes found him, Tunde looked down, unable to meet his gaze. Adeyemi's speech was simple. We all wear helmets. Maybe not physical ones, but masks we put on to protect ourselves. We hide parts of ourselves because we're afraid of judgment, afraid of mockery, afraid of being truly seen. He paused, looking around. But the truth is, we're strongest when we take off those helmets, when we show the world who we really are, not what we pretend to be, not what we think people want to see, but who we really are. I wore a helmet because I wanted to hide my title. I wanted people to see me, not my crown. And you know what I learned? That who I am without the crown is the same as who I am with it, because the crown doesn't make me. My choices make me. He looks directly at Tunde. And everyone here has that same power, the power to choose who you want to be,
to choose kindness over cruelty, understanding over judgment, character over popularity. So as we leave here today, I challenge you, take off your helmet. Whatever it is you're hiding behind, take it off. Be real, be kind, be the person you'd want to meet if you were wearing a helmet yourself. The applause was thunderous. After the ceremony, as Adeyemi walked to his father's car, a simple Mercedes this time, not the full royal convoy, someone called his name. "Prince Adeyemi." He turned. It was Tunde. They stood there, facing each other, the history heavy between them. "I'm sorry," Tunde said, his voice breaking, "for everything. I was wrong, so wrong. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know." Adeyemi looked at him for a long moment. Then he extended his hand. "We all make mistakes. What matters is what we do after." Tunde shook his hand, tears streaming down his face. "I'll do better, I promise." "I believe you." As Adeyemi drove away with his father, the Oba asked, "Why did you forgive him?" "Because someone once told me that a king rules not just with power, but with wisdom. And wisdom means understanding that people can change, that mercy is stronger than revenge, that the boy who bullied me might one day be a man who defends others because he remembers what he did wrong." The Oba smiled. "Your mother would be proud." "I hope so." They drove back to the palace, where Adeyemi would begin his formal training as heir, but he would never forget his time as helmet boy, the lessons he learned, the friendships he made, the strength he discovered when stripped of his title. Because sometimes you have to hide who you are to discover who you really are. And sometimes the person everyone mocks is the person they should have respected most of all.
The Bible says in 1 Samuel 16:7, "The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." Prince Adeyemi wore a helmet not because he was weak or hiding something shameful. He wore it because he wanted to be judged by his character, not his title, by his actions, not his appearance. And the students who mocked him revealed more about themselves than they ever revealed about him. When you judge someone without knowing their story, when you mock someone for being different, when you hurt someone because you think they're weak, remember this: you might be bullying a prince. You might be mocking someone with more strength, more dignity, more character than you'll ever have. Never judge a book by its cover. Never mock what you don't understand, and never mistake silence for weakness. Because the person saying nothing might be the person with the most power to speak. They're just choosing not to, until the moment they do. And when that moment comes, it changes everything. Let us know what time it is and where you're watching from in the comments section. Subscribe for more powerful stories about hidden identities, sweet revenge, and the lessons life teaches when we're brave enough to learn. Never judge someone by their appearance. Never mistake humility for weakness. And never, ever think you know someone's whole story just by looking at them. Because that weird kid in class, that quiet person in the corner, that person everyone mocks, they might just be royalty in disguise. Stay humble, stay kind, and remember, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Treat them like they matter, because they do. Peace.